Hello students, it's time to move ahead in kinematics to the motion in a plane. We have understood the concepts of motion in one line, so now we can easily grasp the concepts of motion in a plane or two-dimensional motion. When we say motion in a plane, let's say for example the plane of this board. If I take my axis, two of the coordinate axes in this plane, then if the particle is moving only in this plane, I can be sure that only x and y coordinates which are in the plane of board are changing. Z coordinate, if it is 0, it will remain 0. So the position of particle can be described easily in terms of two coordinates, x and y. As the particle moves, the values of x and y changes. We are already familiar with the concept of velocity and acceleration. I can write velocity of the particle after differentiating this equation. Dr by dt will give me dx by dt I cap plus dy by dt j cap. Now this can be written as the x component of velocity, if you see, is what it is, dx by dt. So I can write x component of velocity dx by dt, and the y component similarly is dy by dt. So these are components of the velocity vectors. The complete velocity vector can be written as vx I cap plus vy j cap. If I want to write acceleration, I can differentiate the velocity vector again with respect to time, and I get acceleration as dvx by dt I cap plus dvy by dt j cap. We have done problems based on these situations while studying calculus. Now let's take a special case of motion in a plane. Motion in a plane with constant acceleration. With constant acceleration vector. That means acceleration will remain constant both in magnitude and direction. Now if acceleration is constant, I can write these equations. If I write only in the x direction, I can see this is the x component of acceleration, so I can write ax equal to d vx by dt, and where vx is dx by dt. Now if acceleration vector is constant, it means both x and y component of acceleration must be constant. Now if ax is constant here and we have these relations, we have already studied this situation in one-dimensional motion, and if we integrate these, we get our three equations of motion in case of constant acceleration. That was in one-dimensional motion. Here we will write them for x coordinates, for x direction and y direction separately. So in x direction, what I can write is, in the place of v is equal to u plus at, I can write vx is equal to ux plus axt. See, ax is constant. If you integrate, you will get this, where ux is of course the initial value of x component of velocity. Need to do this again here. We have already done this in one. This once again, you can get x is equal to uxt plus half axt square, where x is the displacement in x direction, Or if we want this x to be represented as a coordinate, then we must ensure that our starting point is taken as origin. In that case, the displacement in x coordinate will be same as the x coordinate. Displacement in x direction will be same as x coordinate. If the two equations are there, then of course by eliminating t, I can write the third equation of motion also. The third equation will look like this: vx square is equal to ux square plus 2ax multiplied by x. So these are the three equations of motion in x direction. I can write very similar equations in y direction. Same equations, just you have to replace all the x's with y, and you can write similar three equations for y direction. These are for x direction and similar three equations for y directions. So if we are dealing with problems of motion in a plane with constant acceleration, we can apply the three equations of motions which we are very familiar with in x direction and in y direction separately. A very common and important example of motion in a plane is the projectile motion. See, it's such a common motion, I can demonstrate you straight away here itself. The motion of this chalk like this is the example of a projectile motion. Anything that is thrown near the surface of earth in the absence of air resistance can be treated in the example of projectile motion, provided the distances that the body covers in terms of height or in terms of horizontal distances, they are much less than the radius of earth. So the conditions for the motion of a body which is thrown to be a projectile is that number one is that its position in terms of x and y coordinate, or you can say the distances traveled in horizontal and vertical direction, they have to be much less than the radius of earth. Capital R here is the radius of earth. And the air resistance, any force applied by air, whether it is air resistance or the buoyancy of air, has to be negligible. No force by air. So these are the conditions, and you can say no force by air. Alright, the body has to be close to the surface of earth, should not travel large distances even in the horizontal direction, and large means large compared to the radius of earth. Radius of earth, to give you an idea, the value is 6,400 kilometers. So that means if the height and the horizontal distance, if they are say a few meters, it's all right. Even if they are a few kilometers, it is all right. But they should not be like 1,000 kilometers. Then the theory that we are going to develop for projectile motion may not work correctly, because 1,000 kilometers that goes close to the that becomes of the order of, you can say, the radius of the earth. So it has to be the x and y displacements, they have to be much less as compared to radius of earth for this theory to be valid. The basic idea of taking these conditions are that if these conditions are followed, we can be sure that the acceleration vector of the projectile will be a constant. It will be vertically downwards, g vector. So if these conditions are not followed, then we cannot be sure whether the acceleration will remain constant g vector. All right. So that is why we are taking these conditions, so that it is a case of motion in a plane with uniform acceleration. All right. So now whatever we will be doing will be under these two assumptions. Okay. So acceleration is vertically downwards and it is g. That means the horizontal component of acceleration is 0. Ax is 0. And what about ay? Ay we will write as negative g because we have taken our y direction as upwards. So it is negative g. What about the velocity, initial velocity vector? If the initial velocity we should take in a direction that is not vertical. Alright, because vertical, if I throw the chalk vertically, it is a case of one-dimensional motion, which we have already done. So, the angle between initial velocity vector and g vector, it should not be 0 or 180. If I throw the chalk downwards again, it's a case of one-dimensional motion. So, the angle between u and g, it has to be any angle other than 0 or 180 degree. So, we can resolve this u vector into its component. X component we can call ux and the y component can be called uy. So, we know the x and y components of initial velocity and we know the x and y components of acceleration. And as we have already discussed, we can apply the three equations of motion separately in x and y direction. And I am going to do that now. In x direction, there is no acceleration. So, it's very easy. I can simply write that velocity, x component of velocity will remain constant, simply ux. And the x coordinate of particle, if I have to write, if the velocity in x direction is constant, the x coordinate will simply be ux into t. X coordinate is ux into t. The other term, half at square, is simply 0 because ax is 0. Alright. So, this is about your x direction. Now, I will write the same two things for y direction. In y direction, if I apply the first equation of motion, v is equal to u plus at in y direction, I can say that vy is equal to uy plus at. Acceleration is minus g, so ui minus gt. And second equation of motion will give me y is equal to uit minus half gt square. These are the four basic relations for dealing with the problems of projectiles. X component of velocity, y component of velocity, x coordinate of particle, y coordinate of particle as a function of time. These are the basic equations of projectile motions. With the help of these equations, you can solve most of the problems of projectile motion. Now, say for example, we want to find the time taken by the projectile to go from this point to this point where it again hits the ground. All right. So, what is the special thing about this point? It is again hitting the ground. That means its y coordinate is 0. Okay, it is reaching the x-axis again. So, at x-axis, we know y coordinate is 0. So, in order to find the time of flight, which is the total time taken by the particle to go from here to here, we will just put the y coordinate equal to 0. So, the y, which is equal to uit minus half gt square, I put this equal to 0. And I am getting two values of t, of which one is 0, which is obviously the starting point. We are not interested in it, we are interested in the other solution. The other solution will be, after cancelling out t, will be t equal to twice of uy by g. Now, these components of initial velocity, I can also write them in terms of magnitude of u and the angle which the velocity makes with the x-axis, that is u and theta. I can write ux as u cos theta and uy as u sin theta. So, the time of flight, if I want to write it in terms of magnitude and direction of initial velocity, I can say this will be 2u sin theta by g. So, this is the formula for time of flight. Time of flight is usually represented in terms of capital T. So, let me write it as capital T, the time of flight of the projectile. All right. You can use this one if the components are known, and this one if you are given magnitude and direction. What else we may be interested in? Maybe the range of the projectile, that means how far it landed from the starting point. This is called range on a horizontal plane. Now, range is what? It is basically the x coordinate of the point of impact, the x coordinate of the point where it landed on the ground. So, and I already know the time for this point, which is here. So, what I can do is I can put the value of this time in x coordinate, and that should give me range. All right. So, for range, I will put x equal to r at t equal to capital T. So, if I do that, x equal to r and ux multiplied by t is twice of uy by g. So, the formula for range becomes twice ux uy by g. If I want to write it in terms of magnitude and direction, what I will do is I will replace this ux by u cos theta and uy by u sin theta. So, if I do that, I will get twice of, now multiplying these two means it becomes u square, then sin theta cos theta by g. So, this becomes the formula for range of a projectile. If you want to do it in terms of components, it's twice of ux uy by g, and if you want to do it in terms of magnitude and direction, it is 2u square sin theta cos theta by g. You can also write this as u square sin 2 theta by g with the help of that formula of trigonometry. All right, what else can be of interest here? You may be interested in finding the maximum height achieved by this projectile. Maximum height. Now, what is special at this point? How do we know that the projectile is at its highest point? See, if you look at the fact that how the velocity of a projectile is changing, the x component of projectile is simply not changing at all. It is constant. Whatever it was here, at a higher point, it will be exactly same. ux. It doesn't change. Vx is same as ux. The y component, it is decreasing, uy minus gt according to this relation. So the y component at this point is less as compared to its initial value. Initial value was this much, now it is smaller. As long as y component of velocity is positive, particle is still going higher. But after a certain time, you can see that Vy becomes 0 and then ultimately it becomes negative. Negative value of Vy means that it is coming down. If you take a point somewhere here and you draw the tangent to it, you will realize that the y component of velocity has indeed become negative. Mind you, the x component always remains the same in case of projectile motion. What is happening at highest point? If you draw the tangent, you will realize that the velocity is horizontal. That means the y component of velocity at the highest point simply vanishes. Vy at this point is 0. So we have got one important feature of the highest point, that at the highest point of projectile motion, y component of its velocity is 0. Now how to find the maximum height? We can find it very easily by using the third equation of motion. I have written the first two equations here in y direction. I can also write the third equation of motion as Vy square equal to Uy square plus 2 times acceleration is minus g and the displacement is y. So now if I want to find the maximum height, now for finding maximum height, what I will do is I will put Vy equal to 0 and y equal to capital H, which is the symbol for maximum height. So if I put these two, I get 0 squared equal to Uy squared minus 2gy, 2g capital H, y is replaced by capital H. So that gives me the formula for maximum height. I will write the maximum height at the highest point of board. So that is H is equal to Uy squared divided by 2g. So that is the formula for maximum height in the component form. If you want to write it in terms of magnitude and direction, just replace Uy by u sine theta. So you can write H as u square sine squared theta divided by 2g. So this is the formula for maximum height attained by the projectile. So these are the basic equations with the help of which you can solve all the problems of projectile, and these are the three important formulas for time of flight, range and the maximum height. We must understand that these formula for time of flight, range and maximum height, they will work only in case when the point where it is hitting is in the same level as the point of projection. These two formulas for time of flight and range, they will work only if they are in the same level. And the maximum height that we have got is with respect to the point of projection. With respect to the point of projection, we have got the maximum height. So we must realize this, because in solving problems, we may encounter different situations. So whatever formula we learn, we must know what the meaning of each symbol is and what is the situation where that formula is applicable. On the board, I have given you all the basic results of projectile motion. Our projectile, which is launched with an initial velocity u vector making an angle theta with horizontal, x component of velocity doesn't change. Ux, if you want to write it in terms of magnitude and direction, it is u cos theta. It is always the same. Even if the projectile has moved from here to here, the x component of velocity Vx is same always. Y component of velocity is given by uy minus gt, first equation of motion, can also be written as u sin theta minus gt if you want to write it in terms of magnitude and direction of initial velocity. Now, if you want to write velocity vector of projectile at any given moment, you can simply put it as ux I cap. Vx is same as ux, so Vx I cap plus Vy j cap. So this is the velocity vector of projectile at any moment. If you want to write the direction of velocity vector, the angle which the velocity vector makes with horizontal, I have denoted it by phi here. What you can do is you can write tan phi as Vy by Vx. This is Vy, this is Vx, so it becomes u sin theta minus gt upon u cos theta. So this is how you can get the angle which the velocity vector makes at any moment. See, it is decreasing from this initial value theta. Of course, at the highest point, value of phi will become 0 because y component of velocity at this point will be 0. And what will be the time here? You can get the time here by putting y component of velocity equal to 0. So if the time here will be simply u sin theta by g, u sin theta by g. Now you can see we already know that total time of flight from here up to the point where it strikes the ground again, that was twice of uy by g or 2 u sin theta by g. This is exactly half of it. So at the half time mark, it is at the highest point. In fact, this part of the journey, in which projectile is rising, takes equal time to the part in which it comes back to ground. In fact, there is another way of looking at it. What you can do is you can look at the motion in x direction and y direction separately. Motion in x direction is extremely simple. Particle is just moving with a constant velocity, which is u cos theta. What is happening in y direction? If you look at the y direction, it is basically a particle thrown up with a velocity uy. It goes up to a certain height, and that height is actually the maximum height, and then it comes back. Now we know that in such a situation, the time taken by the particle for upward journey is equal to the time taken by the particle to come back. The same is the case with this projectile launched with the equal y component. If the y component is equal, the time of flight of this particle thrown up vertically is same as the time of flight of this projectile. And this is given by this result for time of flight. And if you want to just calculate the time for upward part of the journey, it will be exactly half, given by u sin theta by g. So the in y direction, the motion is just like a particle thrown up, and when it comes back. And in x direction, it is even simpler. The x coordinate is just proportional to time. You can see x coordinate is written here. X coordinate is proportional to time. So if you combine this, you take x coordinate from this part of the journey, u cos theta into t, and you take y coordinate from here, you get the path of this projectile. By the way, if we want to actually see what is the equation of this path, what do we have to do? We have already done such questions. What we have to do is we just have to eliminate this t from x and y coordinates. And if we, by eliminating t, we can get a direct relation between x and y. So let's do this. I'm putting the value of t from this upper equation, which is very simple. I will get t as x divided by u cos theta, and I will put it here. So let's see what happens. This becomes u sin theta times t is replaced by x upon u cos theta minus half g, and again t is your x upon u cos theta squared. So we can simplify this. U is getting cancelled here, so y is equal to x tan theta minus half gx square by u square multiplied by sec square theta. 1 upon cos square theta, I can write it as sec square theta. So this is our equation of trajectory. Here, if we have launched if we keep the velocity of projectile fixed, that means u and theta, if they are kept constant, y as a function of x, you can see this is the equation. This is y is a quadratic function of x, which means that the equation is a parabola. So this path of the projectile that we see here, this curved path, is a parabola. So the trajectory of projectile is a parabola, and you can see the coefficient of x square is negative, so this is a inverted parabola, the parabola opening in the downward direction. All right. Now this is the equation of trajectory, but many times we use one simplification for it. This sec square theta can be written as 1 plus tan square theta. So if I write it like this, x tan theta minus half gx square by u square, I can write this as 1 plus tan square theta. The advantage of writing trajectory equation in this form is that you can think of y as a function of tan theta in questions where we are changing the angle and trying out different trajectories. So in such questions, y can be visualized as a function of tan theta directly. We will see it later in the questions. Now let's come to these three results here. Out of these three things, time of flight, range, and the maximum height, two depend only on the y component of initial velocity. Out of these three, two of them depend only on y component. That means they are not at all affected by x component of velocity. Which are they? If you look at the results, you will realize that in time of flight and also in maximum height, ux is absent. You are only having uy. That means how long the projectile stays in air is not affected by the x component of velocity. We had already seen that if I throw a particle upward with velocity ui and I compare the motion of this with a projectile having the same vertical component, in fact, their y components are always identical. When this particle reaches here, the projectile will be here. When this one reaches highest point, this will also be at the highest point. When this is coming back, it is somewhere here, this particle will also be here. And when it lands, this will again land here. So the y component of motion of projectile is identical to this stone here. Alright, so even if I make ux 0, you can see the time of flight remains unaffected. And of course, it's given in the formula also that time of flight is not at all affected by x component of velocity. And same thing with the maximum height. Maximum height, of course, height means what? It is the maximum value of y coordinate. So logically, it should not depend on the x component of initial velocity, and it does not, as we see in the formula. So this thing should be very clear that t and h, they have nothing to do with the x component of velocity. Now what about range? We will look at the range function separately after taking one example. I will come back to range. For the time being, you can just see that range depends on the product of ux and uy. So if any of these is 0, range will be 0. That means if you keep, let us say if you keep x component 0, x component of velocity 0 means what? It is this case. If you throw the stone, it will land back in your, at the same spot. Alright. So obviously range is 0. If on the other hand, we keep the y component of velocity 0, the particle will immediately hit the ground. Alright. Because there is gravitational force, the acceleration due to gravity is there, so it will immediately hit the ground. So the range, what we mean by range, we must understand, is the direct distance between the two spots where it is hitting. Alright. It's not that if the ball is rolling, that will not count in the range, we must understand. So if you have only x component and no y component, the particle may roll. If it is, let us say, ball, the ball may roll, but that will not count in range, mind you. Alright. So the concept of range should be very clear. And we will discuss it in more detail in some time. So on this board, you can see all the important results related to projectile. These are x and y coordinates in terms of the components of initial velocity as well as in terms of magnitude and direction. Here you have velocity. I have given x and y component of velocity here in terms of ux, uy, in terms of magnitude and direction here. This is your velocity vector, simply vx I cap plus vy j cap, and this one gives you the tan phi. Phi is the angle made by a velocity vector. So this angle, as you can see, is a function of time, and it becomes from positive to 0 and then it will become negative. And here are of course the three results of time of flight, range and the maximum height. And finally we have also derived the formula for the equation of trajectory of a projectile. So all the important results are here on the board. You can make a clear note of these results. Let's take this example here. Projectile is launched from origin at t equal to 0 with initial velocity having magnitude 50 meter per second, direction making an angle 53 degree with the horizontal. And we have to find these things: time of flight, range, maximum height, values of t when it is at 75% of maximum height, and the angles made by the velocity vector with horizontal at these times. First three things are very easy. You can directly use the formula. Now it will help if you initially find the x and y components of velocity. For this angle 53 degree, it is very easy to do this. The x component of velocity will be your 50 ux will be equal to 50 cos 53, which is 30 meter per second, and the y component of velocity uy will be 50 meter per second sine 53 degrees. So this becomes 40 meters per second. Alright, so we have ux and uy. Now in terms of components, time of flight, we have the result simply as twice of uy by g. So time of flight we can write very easily. Uy is 40, so it will be 80 by 10, 8 seconds. Range, after finding time of flight, if you have to find range, you can do it more easily. You can say that range is time of flight multiplied by ux. Alright, you can check the result for range, we derived it using this method because we know that when the particle lands here, if we know the time, range is what? Range is just the x coordinate of this point. So it will be ux multiplied by t, knowing that the x component of velocity is constant. So ux is our 30. So 30 into 8, this becomes 240 meter. So that is the range of our projectile, 240 meters. The maximum height, again, we can use the formula in terms of components. The maximum height is uy squared by 2g. uy is 40. So 40 squared divided by 20, it becomes 80 meters. So the maximum height of projectile we have got as 80 meters. Now the next part, we have to find values of time, values of time when it is at 75% of the maximum height. So will it be just one value or are there going to be more than one values? See, if you look at the diagram, 75% of this 80 meters, how much is that? That is 60, isn't it? Alright, so let us say 60 is somewhere here, and if I draw a line, horizontal line at 60 meters, I am getting these 2 points. So we are going to get two solutions for this part 4 of the question. And how to do this? See, when the particle is at 75% of maximum height, means what we are given is the y coordinate of the particle. So we must use the formula of y coordinate of particle that we got using the second equation of motion, and it was this: y is equal to vy t minus half gt square. So just have to put the values here and solve for t. So y is 75% of h, which is how much? Which is your 60 meters. Alright, so I put 60 here. Vy we have got as 40, so 40t minus half g is 5t square. If we cancel out 5 and take it onto the left hand side, it is t square minus 8t and plus 60 by 5 is 12 equal to 0. And you can easily factorize this. 12 is 6 into 2. So you will get two solutions as t equal to 2 and 6 seconds. Now at 2 seconds, obviously when the path is like this, first it is here, this point is your t equal to 2 seconds and the other point is t equal to 6 seconds. If we have to find the next part, let's come to the next part. What are the angles made by velocity vector with horizontal at these moments? So the velocity vector is like this, and we had written a formula for this phi. Now you can see one thing, that at the moment t equal to 2 seconds, you can expect a positive value of phi, and at t equal to 6 seconds, this one you can expect a negative value of phi. Alright, because here it will be going down. See, the projectile was launched at t equal to 0, at t equal to 8 seconds, at capital T equal to 8 seconds, it is hitting the ground. That we have already calculated. When was this at highest point? That also we know it will be half of this. So this is your t by 2 equal to 4 seconds. So from 0 to 4, it is rising. The y component of velocity is going to be positive. We will have a positive value of phi. At t equal to 6 seconds, it is coming down. From 4 to 8, it is coming down. So at the 6 second lies in this interval of 4 to 8. So the y component of velocity is negative, and we can expect a negative value of phi. Alright, so what was the result for phi? Tan phi was Vy by Vx, and Vy is Uy minus gt, and Vx is simply ux. Alright, so if I put first t equal to 2 here, what do I get? So tan phi at t equal to 2 seconds, ui is 40 minus gt is 20 divided by ux is 30, so I get 2 by 3 for tan phi at 2 seconds. So this angle phi here, this angle here is tan inverse of 2 by 3. If we do this for 6 seconds, so tan phi at t equal to 6, how much is this? Again 40, ui is 40 minus gt is 60 divided by 30, so it becomes negative of 20 by 30 or negative 2 by 3. That means the value of phi is tan inverse of negative 2 by 3. Negative sign shows that the velocity vector has a downward component. Positive sign here shows that the velocity, the vertical component is upwards. So these are the 5 parts till now. I have added 2 more parts to the current problem. We have to find value of t when velocity becomes perpendicular to initial velocity, v vector perpendicular to u vector. Now this may happen somewhere here, let's say when the projectile is going downwards, the initial velocity vector, this is the direction of initial velocity vector, this is the direction of final velocity vector, and it may so happen that the angle between these two may be 90 degrees. So we have to find this value of t. That is the part number 6. And the 7th part, we have to find the value of y when x is 180, so 150. So let's first do part number 6, v perpendicular to u. Now there are 2 ways in which we can solve this one. First is using the fact that when 2 vectors are perpendicular, their dot product is 0. Now if we want to do it with this approach, we must write down v vector and u vector. Alright, so v vector you can write as or let's first write u vector, then it will be easier to write v vector. Alright, so u vector we can write as your 30 I cap plus 40 j cap, 30 I cap and plus 40 j cap. This is in meters per second. Now v vector, we know that x component doesn't change, so this one will be as it is, 30 I cap. The y component is your uy minus gt using first equation, so 40 minus gt. Alright, this much into j cap, and the answer is in meter per second. So what we can do is we have to put the dot product of these 2 vectors 0. So if we do this, u dot v equal to 0, what do we get? So u is, if we do this, I cap dot I cap, 30 into 30 becomes 900, and j dot j, so this part will be 40 into 40 is 1600 minus 40 into gt, so this is 400 t, and the dot product is 0, so we are getting t equal to, this is your 2500 upon 400, 2 zeros cancelled, this is 6.25 seconds. So as expected, this is during the downward journey. We know that the downward journey was from t equal to 4 seconds to 8 seconds. So as expected, we are getting an answer in the range of 4 to 8. The another way of doing this part may be something like this, that if, see, the initial velocity vector, the initial velocity vector is 53 degree above horizontal. So if the velocity vector, we want the velocity vector to make 90 degree angle with this. See, as the projectile is rising, you can visualize the velocity vector is turning. Velocity vector is turning. By the time it reaches the highest point, we know that it has become horizontal. So you can see it has turned by an angle of 53 degrees. Isn't it? It has turned by an angle of 53 degree in 4 seconds. Alright. So how much it has to turn more? We want the total turn to be 90 degree. We want the angle between this v vector and u vector to be 90 degree. It has turned by 53 degree till here. So if it turns further by 90 minus 53, that means 37 degree, we can see that it will be perpendicular to initial value. So it can be done using this result also, the angle phi made by the velocity vector with horizontal. How much do we want the value of phi to be? We want the value of phi to be minus 37 because it is pointing downwards. So what I can do is that I put phi equal to minus 37 degree here. So tan of minus 37 degree gives you uy is 40 minus 10t divided by ux is 30. Now tan 37 is 3 by 4. So tan negative 37 is negative 3 by 4 is equal to 1 0 is cancelled here. So it is 4 minus t by 3. And if you solve this, you can get this as minus 9 equal to 16 minus 4t. So you get t is equal to 25 by 4. Again, the same answer. The part number 7, we want the value of y when x is 150 meters. Now, this one can be done again in two ways. One way will be that we find the value of time when x is 150 using the formula for x coordinate, and then we put that value of t in y coordinate and we get the value of y. The other way can be that we use the equation of trajectory. So in that result, if you know the formula for trajectory equation, you will not have to find the time. The question doesn't ask time, it just asks the value of x coordinate. So if you remember that result of trajectory equation, you can directly find the y coordinate. So let's do it using the equation of trajectory. So y was x tan theta minus half gx square by u square sec square theta. Alright, so this gives us y is equal to x 150. Tan theta is 4 by 3. Tan 53 is 4 by 3 minus half g is 10. X is given 150, so it is 150 squared. The value of u is 50, so u square is 50 squared. Now sec square tan theta, if you want, you can write as 1 plus tan square theta, so it is 1 plus square of 4 by 3 will be 16 by 9. Alright, and you can solve this to get the value of y. Alright. So how much it will be? This becomes 50, so the first term becomes 200. Here I can cut 50 square and 150 square, I get 9 on top here. This gets cancelled, so it is 5. This part will be 25 by 9. So minus 5 into 9 multiplied by 25 by 9. So 9 goes here, so 200 minus 125, so we get y as 75 meters. And again, you can see that this 75 meter value is reasonable because we had find maximum height as how much? It was 80 meters. All right. So this 75 is possible. All right. And 75 height will occur at two moments. One will be less than 4 seconds. One, or you can say one will be at less than half of the range. One will be at more than half range. All right. These 2 points. One is the rising part of the journey. One is falling back part of the journey. Now, which of these is this point that we can understand by the x-coordinate 150. The x-coordinate 150 is more than half of it. See, half point was, the range was 240, so half point is at 120. It is more than this. So what we have found is this point somewhere here when the y-coordinate is 75 meters.